Mr. Andy Tomlinson, how you doing today, sir?
I'm good. How about you?
Andy, I'm good. I'm good. I want to know this before we really go too far, and that is there something in your life that you feel should have already happened by now? And if so, how have you dealt with that?
Wow, that's a strange question to start off, but makes you think, huh? Something that should have happened but hasn't. Really, no. I'm pretty blessed with work and life and kids, and no, I don't have any. Besides, well, there's one. I guess the Cincinnati Bengals winning the Super Bowl. That should have happened.
Yeah, I mean, I would like to agree, but I don't know if I can.
You're a
Uh,
Browns fan.
un- Unfortunately, yes, guilty as charged. Andy, for me, and I'm glad that you are a well balanced, adjusted, and content human being. That's great. I appreciate that. For me, though, I think it's got to be this conversation because for as long as I think I've known you, I don't think we've ever had a conversation that has been recorded, and I feel that is
No.
entirely my fault. And I'm not sure what to do about that. So we'll see how we proceed. But I want to move that over into the world of insurance because I think there's a lot of the, I feel like this should have already happened now in terms of the insurance buying process. How do you deal with setting expectations, I guess, when it comes to your clients and managing what can be sometimes a more delayed process than necessary?
I guess always follow up is always the best. If you can't make the deadline that you have told the client, it's always good. Hey, you know what? Call before the end of the day, everyone, and say, hey, something popped up. You are still on my list. I'll get you first thing in the morning. All it is communication, and all that people care about is being communicated. I mean, really, because everyone's human. We can't get everything done at the same time.
Wow. So you make it a point if you're working with somebody just to make sure you check in and let them know that, hey, listen, it's not maybe happening today, but it's still happening.
Right. Yeah. I mean, and it's not just me, just my whole staff. It's part of the thing. Before you leave at 5 o'clock, you follow up with the people that you've been dealing with on a daily basis and say, hey, communication is key. And if you tell them, hey, I couldn't get to you today, some things popped up, most people are understandable.
So, Andy, I don't want you to take this the wrong way, but you've always had this unassuming nature about you. And I've always wondered what the secret was. And maybe that's it. I don't know. I guess how long have you been doing that? And if there was a point in time where maybe when you started doing that, that you noticed a big difference?
Probably, geez, I don't even know how long. Quite some time. Because early years, I was like, oh my gosh, I can't get to everything. And people are demanding and, it stressed me out. I don't know, probably 10, 15 years ago, I made the switch. I feel like everyone is more calmer too. Like they're not as fired up. I think over communication is definitely the key. Thank goodness we've instilled it in the office.
I mean, was there a point in time? I'm saying this is hard to believe, but was there a point in time in your career where you weren't calm? I would like to see the version of Andy that was running around haphazardly.
I mean, we're all stressed. But yeah, when I first started out, God, I had no idea what I was doing. And I didn't really have a good teacher either. My dad was at the end of his career. I'm one of the million people that took over from a dad. And he was, gosh, during the day, he'd go to the Elks and play cards. And I'd ask him questions and he'd say, call the underwriter. So I kind of learned on my own and figured it out. You had to, which is probably, maybe I'll do the same for my kids, but I doubt it.
Wow, that's probably one of the. I mean, not for you. This isn't great for you, but that's a great story in terms of coming into the agency. I don't know that I've never heard anything quite like it. So, how long did
Yeah.
that relationship exist like that?
How I came into the agency was dad was sick, and I was actually in Colorado being a ski bum for a bit. Dad called me on I don't know, let's just say a Monday, and I said no to him at first. And then 5 days later, I thought about it and said, you know what? I'm going to come back to town, the small town of Chillicothe, Ohio. I really want to know my dad more. I didn't really care about the insurance business. I was actually in the hospitality industry, and there's a lot of similarities. I mean, you're servicing a client in hospitality and you're servicing a client in insurance. But the best part of insurance is it kind of ends uh, you know, at 5 o'clock where, and weekends are your own, where in the hospitality industry is every weekend, every holiday. But that first year when I came back, I was like, oh, I'm off for the holiday and I'm off for the weekend. This is awesome. So there is some similarities of also helping the client, but the advantages are you don't have to work late. Well, you do work late hours if you're the owner, but not as strenuous on holidays either.
Well, and there's that sort of built-in expectation that you're not gonna, I mean, good or bad, that you're gonna get a hold of your insurance agent on, said holiday. Now I'm sure there are guys that are doing it that way, but again, sort of sticking with this theme of like, being, cool, I guess, collected and calm, and sort of just going about it at a steady pace. I guess the thing that I'm curious about is how you were able to sort of manage that trial by fire, I guess, coming up with your dad, and being able to then not have such a panicked and stressed state in the agency, but yet still, find your way through it, and sort of thrive to where you are today.
I mean, it probably goes back to the process. You have to start with a process, and then because we didn't have one when I first got there, it was very archaic. When I first got there, everyone had a typewriter on their desk, and they had one computer. The one computer, everyone was around, and I'm like, why don't we all have a computer at our desk? So that next week, I got everyone computers, and then we started the process of how to write new business, how to do endorsements. Back then, we didn't even have agency management system, so we had the old, file system, which was awful. We grew and the process made everything less stressful.
I don't want to date you, Andy, but I'm going to ask you to date yourself. As in terms of like time frame, like where was the technology in the competition at that time? Was computers? I mean, what year were we dealing with here in terms of like the technology, and how
I think
far
it was
behind were you?
I think it was '01 is when I got into it.
Oh wow, okay.
Yeah.
So typewriter in '01 is pretty severe, I would
It
say.
was. It was unbelievable. I mean, of course, the company's systems were pretty archaic, but they were online. They were, it was just a different world. I think Dad kind of didn't want to get caught up in the new technology at the time. It was time for new blood.
So, having been around long enough now to sort of see a few things,
Yeah.
do you have a version of a typewriter somewhere in the agency right now that might be
No,
bothering you?
we got rid of the typewriters. Well, I say that we had one lady that kept it forever.
Well, so not a real, more like a metaphorical typewriter. And is there something that you're doing now that you feel is getting closely to being outdated?
Oh, I mean, of course, like the fax machine. Like, why do we still even
Yeah.
allow them to come in? But that has changed too. We do everything. It's almost like an email with our faxes. Just comes to our email now. But it's archaic. You know, the worst thing is the banks that send these 1,000 faxes to you every day. It's like, you got this information. I mean, we see it on the deck page that they have the same mortgage company, the same loan amount. Do you not get our stuff? It's frustrating.
In terms of the agency, I guess where you've taken it, besides the process, did you bring any focus to the business side of things in terms of like what you would go after, what you wouldn't? Because I know you have your hands in quite a bit in terms of, just overall insurance, but is there something that, that you kind of keyed in on that helped define the agency a little bit?
Well, I've kind of separated the agency a little bit. We are a kind of a generalist. I would say we are generalists, but we have a commercial side, we have a personal side, which we didn't have that before. And then we also have a health side, which most agents run away from health. Where I was like, you know what, let's try it. And I got into health when everyone was running away from health. When Obamacare came in, everyone's like, I'm out. I'm like, I'm in. Why not? Let's try it. Try everything, people are wanting to do. And we've kind of grown a pretty good book on that. More not on the health side, we have grown on that, but it's more, hey, they get the service of our agency and they're like, you know what, let's do the home and auto here. So that's grown. And then also I have another division for large group health. And so that's really grown. I've learned a lot in that arena. I had someone that was in that industry for a long time, and we're driving to Columbus an hour away, and we're tired of the drive and wanted to do it locally. And so we combined forces and learned a lot.
So back to like the service and just the the over communication of things. How do you? Is there any intention around driving people to other areas of the agency? Or is that something that has just happened naturally and organic over the years?
You mean how the clients going to different parts?
Yeah, again, like you said, seeing the service and seeing sort of how you do business. Was there any intention around that, or is that something that has just sort of been a happy accident?
I guess it's a happy accident. We all, most agents pride themselves on insurance or on service. We really feel like we are service oriented, and then of course we do our marketing. If we don't have their whole lines, we drip market and things of that nature. We also, uh, do things a little differently and have the renewal calls and those type of things.
So the other thing I think I could hear, agents, possibly screaming at me saying, or screaming at you, I guess, would be, Andy, I can't possibly have the time to check in with everybody and to make sure that
Sure.
they're okay.
Right.
Um, I'm
Yeah, but hey,
assuming at
you know
some
what?
point you told yourself that.
Well, I'm sure there was, but they're paying you a premium, so you got to do something. You can't just say, "Oh, you know what? I don't have the time for them." Well, they're the ones that keep us fed, so you have to make a process, and it's just a list, and it's incredible how easy it is. You, when I say incredible, I mean it was a big task to start, but now it's become second nature.
Break that down a little bit for me, because like you said, it's incredibly easy and it seems to provide disproportionate amount of results in terms of keeping everybody sort of satisfied and calm, but it feels maybe more difficult than necessary. And is it is it as simple as just picking up the phone and they're just keeping a list of like everybody that's sort of in the queue and hopper, and then just making a
You
phone
have
call and crossing a name? Like, it's nothing complex, right?
you pull a report round on that week, and then you divvy it up by the people that are working there, and no rhyme or reason. You take the first 20, you take the first 20, second 20, and just go down the line. It's every week. Started on Monday.
I kind of want to be a fly on the wall for this. What I'm assuming, there's again benefits to that. Again, they're always saying increase the touch points, right?
Yeah.
What other things do you hear in those conversations that you probably would have never had the opportunity had you not made that call?
Oh, like we added a sunroom, or we bought a motorcycle. Just things that aren't,
Yeah.
you know, top of mind for them, because they're like, oh yeah, I'll get to that. Well, they don't ever get to it. In Ohio lately, a lot of heavy rains, so a lot of coverage issues on the homes. People are adding. We always add 5,000 water backup, regardless. Even when we just put it on there. But we've been upping the coverage as we talk to clients, and they realize, oh, you know what? I forgot to tell you, we finished that basement. It's better at claim time when those things arise.
Has there ever been a point, and you might have alluded this to me before we hit the record button, but has there been a point where you felt that you couldn't keep up with that sort of level of attention just based on volume and just again feeling too busy? Is there a point where your system or your process starts to crack or break?
Oh yeah, but then we just put it on to the next week. I mean, at some point you are going to get a break. It's not always insanely busy. The phones aren't always ringing off the hook. There are going to be a day that's like, oh, hey, all right, we can catch up. And those days are nice. I mean, right now, and there's laws in this industry. There's weeks you're like, holy cow, or what's going on? Why are we not getting the calls? And then the next week your phones are off the hook and you're scratching your head, like, how are we going to keep up? Yeah, definitely some cracks, but you just put it to the next week. Just like over communicating with the clients, that we'll get it to you the next day.
If you had to leave agents with sort of one thing to reduce anxiety and to maybe find a way to be more of an unassuming success, as I would like to say that I've sort of picked up from you, is there something that stands out that if you were just reflecting this moment to say, you know what, I never thought about it until now, but I think this might be important?
it's not a big deal if you don't hit every deadline. It's like, it'll be fine. The next day is going to come. You can get to it then. It's not, I don't know. It's you're putting too much pressure if you can't hit to that. Then you stop doing it because you know what? I can't get to it. No, you just keep on going down the line. You'll be fine. It'll all work out. There's going to be good days and bad days. I swear there'll be a day that's not as busy.
All right, Andy, got 3 more questions for you, sir.
Yep.
And the first one is, what is one thing that you hope you never forget?
Boy, never forget. To be humble. Just yeah.
All right, Andy, I have a hard time believing that one, but I'll take your word for it right now. On the other side of that one, Andy, what's one thing you still have yet to learn?
Oh, geez. Right now, I'm in the midst of a hiring frenzy because of the great resignation and retirements. I want to learn how to be a better hire. Like, I go through these things and I'm like, am I doing this thing right? That's what's on top of mind right now. I'm going through like 53 applications right now, or resumes. This is the part that I hate. I mean, I would love to push this off to someone else, but I can't. You got to do it.
All right, Andy, last question to you, sir. If I were to hand you a magic wand of sorts to reshape, change, alter, speed up really any part of insurance, what is that thing? Where is it going? And what's it doing?
Of course, it's the technology. I mean, it's starting to come on the personal lines. They're still clunky. A lot of carriers are really clunky. Just keep on pushing along on that. It's not where it should be, especially there's some companies that are better than others. And it would be great if we all found one or better way to do it. But we all have our own little battles. But the carriers have come a long way since '01, but it needs to get better.
Andy, this has been fantastic. I'm going to leave it right there, sir.
Yeah, it has.